Interstate 90 goes from Seattle, Washington to Boston, Massachusetts. So you might think the fastest way to get there from Seattle to Boston is I-90. I can't show you the Apple Maps thing due to copyright issues and general fact that I can't really show you stuff on my phone when I'm filming a video on my phone. So unfortunately I can't actually show you it, but it's a day and 19 hours of a drive. So you're probably wondering, what chain of cities are you going to hit? Well, you might think that you're going to hit the I-90 chain of cities. The major cities include Seattle, Washington, Chicago, Illinois, Cleveland, Ohio, and Boston, Massachusetts. Smaller cities include Spokane, Washington, Billings, Montana, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, South Bend, Indiana, Toledo, Ohio, Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, New York, Buffalo, New York, yeah, Buffalo, New York, Buffalo, New York, Syracuse, New York, Albany, New York, and Springfield, Massachusetts. And while you're gonna hit most of them, you're not gonna hit all of them because I-90, the cities you go through are gonna be slightly different. Because I-90, the cities you go through are gonna be slightly different. Because 90 goes through Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Massachusetts. And while most of this is accurate, between Billings, Montana, and I'd say Tomah, Wisconsin, I think, you're taking 94. 90 and 94 intersect in 4 places. In Billings, Montana, in Tomah, Wisconsin, where the concurrence either begins or ends. I'm not actually totally sure about that. In Chicago, Illinois, and Lake Station, Indiana. And the thing is that you're only on 94 from Billings, Montana to Tomah, Wisconsin. But but you're actually going to be going through North Dakota and Minnesota and and a chain of cities. Instead of hitting Sioux Falls, South Dakota, you'll have actually another major city that you didn't know about: Minneapolis, Minnesota, and St. Paul, Minnesota. They're twin cities. So that's the only real difference. But this video is not going to be about that. It's going to be the difference between 90 and 94. Now, to make it fair, we're going to do the cities you have to get between, two ways policy to make it a little bit more fair. Because I-90 goes from Seattle to Boston, but I-94 only goes from Billings, Montana to Detroit, which is in Michigan. That's a problem though, because unlike our normal pair, these don't actually, 90 doesn't go into Detroit. On top of that, it's like there are multiple different pairs, because while on paper it should look as if, you just have to get from Billings to Lake Station, Indiana, the last point that they intersect. It's ridiculously more complicated than that. Because, as we all know, you can't just get to, you can't just, like concurrencies. I know one's in Tomah, Wisconsin, and I believe it actually ends in Portage, Wisconsin, though I'm not sure, so I believe that might be 39, and 94, I'm not totally sure those cities there. So Billings to Portage, and then we do Tomah to Chicago. And I'd say Billings to Portage, Billings, Montana to Portage, Wisconsin is the biggest one. Because Portage, we got Billings in Montana, Billings to Montana is Billings, because 90 dips from central, because there's 94 states to central Montana and eventually goes to southern North Dakota, going through Fargo, North Dakota, instead of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It then goes to central Minnesota into southern, unlike 90, which is like the southernmost tier, passing through the city of Minneapolis and St. Paul before dipping into Wisconsin. And 90 dips south into there, into all the way down to northern Wyoming, then goes to southern South Dakota through Sioux Falls, the southern tier of Minnesota, and I guess central Wisconsin. Although after these, they're in the same states at least, because from Tomah to Chicago, 94 continues across central to southern Wisconsin, passing through the city of Milwaukee, whereas 90 dips along 39 even further south Wisconsin and into northern Illinois at this point, before it turns due east at the city of Rockford. So as 90 and 94 are heading, 90 is east, 90 is west of 94, because it dips south further, and then after 94 you reach Milwaukee. You have to deal with all this Interstate 43 and 41 bureaucracy crap all the way to the Illinois border, and then you're basically there. But 94 really doesn't spend all that much time in Illinois now that it's US 41. It's just that US 41 goes from Miami, Florida at US 1 to Fort Wilkins State Park and Cooper Drive in Michigan at the northernmost tip. So you spend nearly 5 hours driving up Michigan from the southernmost point in the Lower and Yarrow Peninsula to the northernmost point. Then you drive across the eastern edge of Wisconsin, mostly paralleling Interstates 41 and 43 up the way until they end, which I don't think is in Milwaukee. I think that there's a lake further north in Wisconsin, one of the largest lakes. I'm not totally sure what that is, though, so I'll have to look that up. And then it heads along eastern Illinois, but here's the thing: there's not that much going on between Chicago and Lake Station, because 90 just continues along Chicago. 94 actually now is further south, heading to Interstate 80, and then the northwestern corner of Indiana, and then 80 switches to 90 or 94 intersects the last time, and then they take off, heading only in the northwestern corner of Indiana and not just the northern tier of the state, and eventually into Michigan, southern Michigan. But this isn't just about the differences between Interstates 90 and 94. Oh no. This is about what the entire City Pair 2 route is about. Marshall, Michigan to Port Huron, Michigan have the same thing, and they're actually very similar in sizes. Interstates 94 and 69, because 69 has more of a basketball shot up, where you head further north up to, I'd say, the same latitude as Port Huron. I'm not exactly sure where, but then it curves east, passing Interstate 75 in Flint, Michigan, and somewhere south of that, it even has a concurrency with Interstate 96, although I'm not exactly sure where. 94 continues across southern Michigan, passing Interstates 96 and 75 in Detroit, but then continues further up north before meeting and having a concurrency 69 through Port Huron. Another one of these pairs could be Kansas City to St. Louis. I mean, you have Interstate 70/US 40, although not really concurrent, and then, but that's kind of cheating, though, because they're parallel. And then you have US 50, which is a more southern alternative. Another one is between College Point, Maryland, and Philadelphia. Interstates 95 and US 1. After 95 goes across the eastern part of the Capital Beltway and US 1 goes through the city, they intersect at College Point. But then US 1 continues throughout eastern Pennsylvania, eastern Maryland, and into southeastern Pennsylvania. But 95 actually goes through eastern Maryland at a more extreme eastern tilt, through northern Delaware, and then into the southeastern corner of Pennsylvania. But they actually don't intersect in Philadelphia itself, because US 1 is actually on the western part of the city, and Interstate 95 is on the eastern part of the city. In fact, while they are pretty much so parallel throughout New Jersey, they don't actually even have a proper intersection until Fort Lee, New Jersey. Meaning that it's crazy to think that, yes, they have no intersections from a place south of Baltimore to nearly New York City. Yes, Jacksonville, Florida, to Petersburg, Virginia. Because as Interstate 95 heads across the eastern coast, although in Savannah, Georgia, it pulls away, heading more throughout the eastern portion, but not like the east coast. And actually, that remains largely the case until both of them, like around, I'd say, Newark, where they perfectly realign up with the coast. But at Savannah, Georgia, it leaves. But US Route 1 actually goes more so throughout where they live. Not directly so, but I mean, at points it is further west than Interstate 77, which actually kind of means a lot. Because it goes through central Georgia, not eastern Georgia, and then it actually goes through a more western part of South Carolina into central North Carolina, and then Virginia, although by Virginia, they're both central Virginia. Yes, 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 yes. And finally, the ultimate task. We are going to be comparing San Francisco to DC, how to drive there more accurately, Washington, D.C. to Seattle, the best way to get there, and last but not least, New York to Los Angeles. So San Francisco to DC comes from the Genius Files book. And this one I haven't really looked up, but they suggested 3 ways. And I'm going to tell you the problem with all 3 ways that they recommended. First is US Route 2. US Route 2 goes from, I believe, Everett, Washington, which is even further north than Seattle for a geographical reference. And it goes to St. Ignace, Michigan. Connected by several routes in Canada, it begins again at Rouse's Point, New York, heading to Holton, Maine. So it goes from Interstates 5 to 75, and then US Route 11 to Interstate 95. And there are problems with that route. First of all, you're going to have to take US Route 101 up through the west coast of California and Oregon, I believe, to get even to Everett. They're taking Interstate 80 to Interstate 5 up instead of US Route 101 through the through that area, like to get to Sonoma County and beyond, might be a better alternative. I'm not really sure. I haven't really looked it up on Google Maps. Then, you're not going to drive through Canada, are you? You're not going to drive through Canada. You're not going to drive through Canada. I know that. So you're going to take Interstate 75 down. I'd say, honestly, the US Route 50 might be the best idea. Because then it's a march through southern Ohio, northern West Virginia. Between those 2 points, you're briefly going to head to the southwestern corner of Maryland. Then it's through northern Virginia into Washington, D.C. I mean, or you take Interstate 90, and then you have to deal with, once you're, I'd say, at 79, you're going to have to deal with that. It's one of the worst ways. Then they recommended US Route 20. US Route 20, you actually begins at the coast at, I believe, New Pound or Newfour or whatever it is, Oregon, literally less than a mile from the Pacific Ocean at US Route 101. So this time, we don't actually have to veer off 101, which is good. Yeah, but then it goes through central Oregon, southern Idaho, southwestern corner of Minnesota, and then you have to deal with the gap that's in Yellowstone National Park. Okay, once you're in Wyoming, the route's pretty confusing from there. I mean, until you get to I'd say Chicago at least, it's in between Interstate 80 and 90. It's a pretty remote road, and once you get there, paralleling Interstate 90 is going to be another problem, because now you're going to have to find a way to get down to US 50, which they also recommended. US Route 50. This one actually works the best, except for the fact that it doesn't actually go all the way to San Francisco. So you're going to take I-80, and if you want to exit 86 is the exit 55, but you have to take exit 82, the exit for US 50, to get there. And then you're going to drive through the loneliest road in America across northern Nevada. Okay, there. Are there any good routes? Well, the way that they initially proposed was Interstate 80. It goes almost to New York City, it ends at Teaneck, New Jersey, and there are problems with this route. Namely, it goes to San Francisco, but do you just take Interstate 95 once you get down to Teaneck? Like, do you have to take exit 68A, down 95 south? It's actually inefficient because you're going to be heading southwest. To cut down some of the distance, you don't take exit 6B on 95. You actually go through this two city pairs one-way destination. So instead of taking 95, you take the New Jersey Turnpike / 295 down. And while it's not really the same thing, it kind of is. And it pairs Trenton, New Jersey to Newcastle, Delaware. But you're going southwest. I'd say a more practical option is to go down Hazleton, Pennsylvania to 81, which you might think, well, that's a good option. It is not, because between 76 and 78, and exits 52 to 89, it's practically an east-west route. That's Carlisle, Pennsylvania to Union Township, Pennsylvania. That's a long route. I've driven on it before. Only part of 81 I was ever on. So it's a bad idea. Plus, you're going to have to deal with the Interstate 70, which doesn't even go to 95. So, really, Interstate 79 to 68 is a good idea to 70, but then you're only gonna be in Baltimore, not quite DC, and you're gonna have to take 695s and then drive on 95 for 1 hour. I haven't really looked it up on Google Maps. Washington DC to Seattle, I've seen a video of it, but it's not. I didn't really watch the whole thing. Nevertheless, it's not a great route because 90 lies along Interstates 90 and 5, and Washington DC. You basically have to start your route on US Route 50. I mean, you could take Interstate 66, but that only gets you so far. And taking Interstate 81 all the way up to Syracuse, New York, because you're going to be heading back eastward between Carlisle and Union Township, also isn't great, just because you're going to be heading west on the New York Thruway, and 90 is one of the bumpier routes in America, given its extreme latitude changes. I mean, at points, it's as far south as, I'd say, like 60 miles north of my house. Like, there are points where if you go 60 miles north of my house, I believe, and you head due west, you can actually reach I-90. But there is a better way. There is a better way. Also, if you're wondering where US 20 ends, it's in Boston. If you're wondering what the better way is, you can take US Route 50, and this actually can really apply to all these roads. Then you gradually shift further and further north. So like you might take US Route 50 to Interstate 70. Now, Interstate 70 and US 50 are practically parallel. If you're wondering, US 6 actually finally ducks below 50 in Ely, Nevada, because 70 and 50 are actually parallel throughout Utah. Though we don't necessarily want to wait all the way out to Utah, because then it's going to be a relatively dramatic shift up Interstate 15 all the way to Butte. And then we're going to be heading in Idaho twice, just to get back to the 7-hour drive on Interstate 90 to Seattle. So I mean, that's not great. That's not great in my opinion. It's actually kind of bad. And US Route 6 actually has a top hat thing, so like it goes, so like it's kind of awkward, but it actually shifts up north through Utah and like a top hat thing, which is weird. So I guess it briefly powers Interstate 80. So you might think, why not just take US 6 to 80? Also, if you're wondering, 6 ducks below 40 at Denver. The points where 6 is actually above 20 in Ohio. It's ducks below 30 at Joliet, Illinois. But if you're wondering, US Route 6 actually intersects in Grand Junction, Colorado, US 50, but then the top hat thing. So you could take US 6 up to, I believe, I-80 or maybe US 40 at Denver. But then it's still the dramatic shift up Interstate 15. Just not as dramatic, but relatively dramatic. So it seems that we have gotten literally nowhere, which you hate to see. So, what about New York City to Los Angeles? One of the ones that we always want. So if you put it in on Google Maps, irritatingly, it puts it at lower, in the lower Manhattan area, which means that it actually wants you to take 78 to 95 to 280, although there are lots of shifts in 95 itself, like the shift on 14th Avenue and then onto the Hudson Bay extension of the New Jersey Turnpike to 95 to 280. Then you finally head on I-80 with lots of shifts. Now, thing is the fact that you might be able to think, oh well, can't you just take 80 all the way? Nope. What you want to do is that you want to take, exit 109 in Nebraska on Interstate 76, then merge on to 70, then take Interstate 15 down to Interstate 10 in Ontario, California, and then you'll get there. Yeah. Now, what you might be thinking is, well, can you take Interstate 95 all the way down to Jacksonville, Florida, and then Interstate 10? No. Because first of all, it violates Pythagoras, and second of all, Los Angeles, California is northwest of Jacksonville, Florida. You're heading out of your way for no reason. What might be more reasonable is 95 to 20 to 10, where but that's kind of even worse, because then you have to deal with the traffic of Atlanta. Really, it's just like there's no good direct routes. Also, fun fact, Interstate 80 does not only exist like in spirit in Indiana, as there is no point where it's not concurrent with another interstate highway. If you're wondering why, from somewhere like South Holland, Illinois, it has a concurrency with Interstate 294 from exit 5 to a certain terminus. Then 94, once that ends, and Interstate 94 Interstate 94 Interstate 94 and 80 have a concurrency at Lake Station, where Interstate 80 is then concurrent with 90 to Elivia, Ohio. Furthermore, 94 and 90 are dominant over 80. So that's when, like Google Maps tells you to make these turns. The first one is actually to stay onto the Delaware toll gap. But after that, it's like to merge on to 90 at Elivia, to continue on to 94 in Lake Station, to continue on to 287, 294, in South Holland, although it doesn't say 287, but that's in New Jersey, and then it finally tells you to start making these turns, but it's kind of annoying. Also, if you're wondering, when Mr. Beast drove to LA, he actually drove the wrong way. What he should have done was taken US 264, because I believe he lives in Greenville, North Carolina, out for nearly 100 miles out to Bali, then taking Interstate 440 to Interstate 40. And if you're wondering how far that would have gotten him, he could have taken that all the way to Interstate 15, and then drove Interstate 15, and then drove to Interstate 10. What I believe what he did was he tried to get up to Interstate 70, I'm not sure where, and then he tries to duck back down after Denver, but that was really the inefficient way. Plus, when he had to get back home once he was in Illinois, had he been on 40 and cruising that far along, he would have been in the cities of Tennessee.